Hey guys, it's been a while since I shown my face around here, and I hope to do it more often as my curriculum development is wrapping up. Today I'm going to tell you about 3 ways to spot an emotionalism junkie. First, what is an emotionalism junkie and why does it matter? Emotionalism is when an individual places an emphasis on emotions and allows them to guide reality. We see it everywhere in our culture today. The motto of the culture is to feel it is to know it, and if you try to ground any feeling in objective truth, well, people are going to call you a phobic of some sort. Next week, I hope to talk to you about the 3 ways to help an emotionalism junkie come down from the high, but you have to be able to spot one first, so let's get with it. First, a little disclaimer, I used to be an emotionalism junkie, so if you listen to me long enough, you know that. So here are the 3 ways to spot one. Number 1, an emotionalism junkie uses their feelings to guide reality instead of as a response to it. Anyone who has experienced this roller coaster knows what it's like to be at the mercy of the coaster. 1 minute you're up and the next you're down. And although emotions are very real, they cannot guide reality. When an emotionalism junkie emphasizes feeling God as a way to know Him, we have aligned our way to discover truth with the culture, and it's more accurately described as determining the truth based on what you feel instead of discovering the truth by what's grounded in reality. Truth is discovered, it's not determined. For example, the culture determines truth with gender, love, and life in the womb. With gender, because to feel it is to know it. With love, because to feel it is to love it, and with life in the womb, because to feel it is not a person makes it easier to kill. Does it matter that all of those things I just mentioned are rooted in objective truth? Not to an emotionalism junkie. So if this is the way of the culture, why is it also the way of the church? Second, an emotionalism junkie emphasizes emotions as evidence to loving God with all of their hearts. I know this because I used to do it, and I used to think this way. But Matthew 22:37 tells us to love God with all of our hearts, with all of our souls, and with all of our minds. Oftentimes, we compartmentalize these things and we assume they are separate from one another, but that's not it. They are in conjunction to one another. Jen Wilkins said it best, and I think this is one of the best quotes I know of when it talks about knowing what you love. She says, the heart cannot love what the mind does not know. And that brings me to Proverbs 1:9. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The Bible always emphasizes knowing God as the path to loving Him, since what enters the heart is always filtered through the mind. So are emotions bad or wrong? If you think I'm saying that, you're not feeling me. Pun intended. Emotions have their place, and I'll talk about that in the next video. So here's the 3rd way to identify an emotionalism junkie. The emotionalism junkie seeks an emotional high, but he ends up crashing since the high cannot be sustained. And guess what happens when the emotionalism junkie crashes? Doubt comes flooding in. Questions of where is God? Does He exist? And if He does exist, wouldn't I feel Him? Always cross the mind. That's because when you are caught up in emotionalism, emotions change. What doesn't change though? The truth. And when you're anchored in truth, you know that God exists regardless of whether or not you feel Him. Here's a good way to remember this. Since the opposite of true is false, God exists when I'm on a high or when I'm in a low. When I feel Him or when I don't. Truth never changes. And that brings me to a question that someone asked me just this week on Instagram regarding feeling God. She literally asked, how do I feel God? It's a question many ask. It's a question I've asked over the years, but it comes with a lot of misunderstanding, and here's why. I know that there are times when I felt closer to God, and I know other people have said the same thing, but I don't know that it's an actual feeling or if it's more of an awareness. Think about it. Whenever you're going through a hard time, the feelings of hardship and maybe even depression and all the lows that you feel in a difficult time always override feeling close to God. It's in those moments that we have to lean on what we know about Him instead of what we feel, because God's presence isn't a feeling at all. So if you know the attributes of God, that He never changes, that He never fails, that He never leaves you nor forsakes you, in those really, really difficult moments when you're overwhelmed by the emotions of hardship, you'll have to cling to what you know more than what you feel. And it's in those times I think we're more aware of God, so we feel closer to it. And it's in those difficult times that we lean more on what we know than what we feel. We have to. We're kind of forced to. When we are aware of what we know about God, we feel closer to him. That means the heart must follow the head. Emotions have their place, and my next video will talk about that and the 3 ways to help an emotionalism junkie come down from the high. But for now, know what it is to spot an emotionalism junkie. And like I always say in my podcast episodes, I'll catch you on the next one.